we have a brand new governing body update video where we are going to talk about natural disasters, special conventions, and an interview with 2 new governing body members. So let's do this.
Welcome, brothers and sisters. Since our last update, we've had 2 more special conventions. Both were held in Chile. More than 4,700 delegates traveled from 21 countries to attend these 2 conventions. There was a combined peak attendance of over 17,000 and 123 were baptized. The special convention touched the hearts of many, including a delegate named Jonathan. He said, "The love you have shown us at every step of this trip, from the welcome at the airport to all the different activities, the beautiful gifts, the friends at the convention, the wonderful reception personnel at the hotel, it has been unbelievable. We thank Jehovah for allowing us to have this incredible experience," he said.
So I look at these governing body update videos kind of like investor meetings, letting you know about the health of the company. And Jehovah's Witnesses around the world, they are vested in Watchtower as a corporation. They have put their lives and a lot of times a lot of their financial resources, whether that's in doing work for Watchtower or actually giving money directly to them. They are very invested in what's going on inside the organization. Now, if I'm sitting here listening to this meeting, these numbers aren't giving me a lot of confidence. So there's talking about this special convention. These special conventions are sort of a big deal in the Jehovah's Witness world. You invite other people from all around the world to go to this convention, and it's meant to give people a sense of community, a worldwide global brotherhood, as you were. I know it sounds kind of creepy to say it like that, but that's what they call it, the worldwide brotherhood, where they can really get the feeling of love and joy amongst Jehovah's global people. So because they're a big deal, a lot of people will choose this time to get baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. If you are a Jehovah's Witness child, or you're someone that is studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, and you know, because they plan these special conventions like a year in advance, all the prep work starts. From my personal experience of having been part of the planning of one of these conventions myself, people will hold off getting baptized to do it at these special conventions because it is like this big glorious moment and they want that baptism to feel special. So a lot of times people will actually hold off maybe for 6 months getting baptized so they can do it at the special convention. And so when he says there's 17,000 people there and only 123 people get baptized, that is pathetic. That is truly pathetic. Now, if you look at Chile, the history of it, or just over like the last 5 years or so, I'll just kind of put it on screen here, but it's somewhere between South American countries are usually somewhere between like 6 to 4% growth rate a couple of years ago. But the interesting thing about Chile is now we're seeing this steady decline. And now when he's talking about even at a special convention, for the number of Jehovah's Witnesses versus getting baptized, what was it, 17,000 versus 123 people? So that's what, 0.7%. 0.7% conversion ratio. It looks bad. If I am someone that is invested in the organization of the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania, I'm looking at this slow, steady decline in an area where we have experienced significant growth. This is a sector that has always been reliable for Jehovah's Witnesses. The South American region, the African region, is where they get a lot of their growth. Take that for what you will, but it's the simple truth of the thing. They experience more percentage growth in South America than they do in places like America, Europe, or Australia. It's just the facts. So when you see that now, even in Chile, they're getting this sort of decline, it's not giving me a whole lot of confidence in the long-term viability of the Watchtower Corporation. Now, after this lackluster performance report, Garrett Loesch is going to try and convince Jehovah's Witnesses all around the world that they are involved in doing humanitarian aid, which I always find hilarious, and I always poke fun at them and shoot spitballs at them. So let's listen to what he has to say, and then get your spitballs ready.
Recently, we've had a number of significant natural disasters. In mid-September, Storm Boris affected Central Europe, bringing heavy rain and powerful wind. Hundreds of our brothers and sisters were displaced and received relief aid. Meanwhile, Southern Africa continues to be affected by an unprecedented drought. Various branch offices, including Malawi, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, have helped tens of thousands of our brothers to have the food they need. In late September and early October, Hurricanes Helene and Milton devastated the southeastern United States. The two storms caused devastating floods and landslides. Sadly, 3 publishers were killed. Over 11,000 of our brothers were displaced. The storms damaged or destroyed 17 kingdom halls and more than 2,500 of our brothers' homes. We continue to pray for all of our brothers who are affected by these disasters. And we are grateful for the many volunteers who are supporting disaster relief. Of course, we also appreciate the generous donations that allow us to care for the needs of our brothers who are facing these terrible situations.
So, this droopy-faced, pugnacious bootlicker has the audacity to look you in the face and talk about, man, the organization, we are really trying to provide food and help people rebuild their houses. We're doing so much for disaster relief. My ass, you guys are. This is ridiculous, and the evidence that this is ridiculous is out of their own mouths. They do not prioritize humanitarian aid, disaster relief, or any type of charitable work when it comes to how they're using their money. They do not have that at the top of the priority list. Like most other charities. I don't know, charities generally function to do charitable work, but not with Watchtower. So what am I talking about? Just in they call it service year, we'll just use the term fiscal year because it's easier for my brain to think about. So in the fiscal year of 2023, the Jehovah's Witnesses publicly stated that they spent over $500 million for the purchasing, renovation, and whatever else of kingdom halls and assembly halls. And this was on top of what local congregations had spent to do the maintenance of it. So that's whatever they spend, that's just completely separate. But the organization, the legal entities of the organization spent $500 million on just kingdom halls and assembly halls. Also, they told their followers that they are doing major renovation projects or some renovation projects in half of all of their Bethel facilities around the world. So that's on top of the $500 million that they're more than $500 million that they're spending. What number could we assign to how much those are costing? I really would struggle to come up with something that seems reasonable. I guess if I had to just throw something out there on the low end, maybe like $100 million if you're doing half of their facilities, and their Bethel facilities are quite large, by the way. So let's just say it's somewhere to the tune of like $600 to $700 million per year, or last year, that they spent on their real estate portfolio. That is a lot of rupees. That is a eye-watering amount of money that most people won't even begin to understand what they could do with that amount of cash on top of their portfolio, which they can use to generate more cash. Like, they have a disgusting, and I mean grotesque, amount of resources available to them. So you would think that with all of that, they would be able to really do a lot of good out there in the world. Publicly, last year, they sent, drumroll please, they said they spent $10 million on disaster relief. $10 million on disaster relief. And somewhere around $600 million on their real estate endeavors. That is the most embarrassing statistic that Watchtower that they share publicly with their followers, because it shows the people that give them money what they care about most. The proof is in the pudding. Put your money where your mouth is, and they do. They absolutely do. They care way more about their real estate than they do about helping people that are Jehovah's Witnesses. That's not to say helping people that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses, because $10 million isn't going to go very far. So what a lot of the aid and stuff that comes from the organization is actually done by individuals. The organization is like, oh, helping people? We don't know anything about that. So a lot of the stories you'll hear about, oh man, they took care of me and da-da-da-da-da, and we got relief. It's from government agencies and individuals. It's not coming from the organization. Now at the end here, he always has to say, we appreciate you for all of your donations. Now, this is just like my personal opinion. You can just throw it in the garbage if you want. It's whatever. It's not a big deal. But I think that asking for the donations is more about them keeping people mentally invested. People always talk about the sunk cost fallacy when you are a Jehovah's Witness, is they've invested so much time and effort, they just can't stop. They just can't pull back. And I think the psychological impact of giving money to Watchtower is more important than the financial impact that it has for the organization. I don't know if I said that and that makes any sense, but that's just my opinion. I do think that when they're asking for kids' ice cream money, the classic Caleb and Sophia video, do they care about that 10 cents? Not really. But they care about the mind of the person. They care about keeping that person on the hamster wheel of the Jehovah's Witness life. And the more that people invest of their time and money, the more likely they are, with the sunk cost fallacy going on, the more likely they are to remain faithful Jehovah's Witnesses. So anytime they bring this up, I have to laugh at them, because it is outrageous that they are so blatant in telling their followers that they simply do not care that much about actually helping people, and they care a lot about their real estate portfolio. Now, with that rather long rant out of the way, I'm very calm now. I had a few sips of coffee, so hopefully that'll help me. Actually, coffee wouldn't help. I should have had tea. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now let's go and do this interview where the new governing body members, Rumpf and Jody Jelking, or whatever nickname that we gave him, let's see what they have to say about their careers in Watchtower.
Let's spend a few minutes getting better acquainted with them. Welcome, brothers. We have so many questions that we'd like to ask you, but maybe you could help us to know a little bit about how you came to love Jehovah. First, what helped you to come to know Jehovah so that you wanted to serve him? Brother J.D.?
Well, I was raised in the truth. Dad was baptized in the 1940s, and he served faithfully until he passed away. And Mom was baptized in the 1950s. They loved Jehovah and his organization.
This is the Jehovah's Witness equivalent of the peaceful transfer of power. Garrett Loesch is the oldest serving member of the governing body, having started in 1994, and he was baptized around when this guy's parents were baptized in the 1950s. So Garrett Loesch was baptized in 1959, and then he started his full-time service in 1961, somewhere in there. and had a whole career of blah, blah, blah of doing the whole Jehovah's Witness thing until he was eventually appointed as a governing body member. Now, the thing I find fascinating about this is that in order to be a governing body member, you have to be a self-proclaimed member of the 144,000. The 144,000 are the select group of individuals that Jehovah's Witnesses believe are the ones that will go to heaven. Everyone else will have a hope of living forever on a paradise earth, but only 144,000 will have the reward of getting to live with God and Jesus and be superhuman, gold, floaty, winged, bearded men up in heaven. So if you look back at the history of this teaching of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is why I find it so funny. So the organization, the religion that Gerrit Loesch promised his life to back in the 50s had made very specific and what they called evidence-based proclamations of when the calling or when the anointing of that 144,000 actually stopped. And that was in around 1935. They said that, hey, anyone born after that 1935 marker is going to be someone that has that earthly hope, not that heavenly hope. Take a look at this Questions from Readers article and notice just how sure they are that the heavenly calling stopped in 1935 and that there would be these very few rare exceptions of people that were baptized after that date that would make up that 144,000. And it comes from a Questions from Readers article from 1970. Even in modern times, until about 1935, the call continued to go forth to bring in the remaining ones of the 144,000 or the remnant. Since then, however, the emphasis has been primarily on gathering the great crowd or other sheep who have earthly hopes. The bride has extended the invitation of these persons to drink life's water free. Their numbers have been greatly increasing, while the number of those professing to be of the heavenly calling has been decreasing. These many coming in, by and large, been looking to the blessing of everlasting life on a paradise earth. Such ones now number several times more than 144,000. Does this mean that since about 1935, those already resurrected to heaven together with their spirit-begotten remnant yet on earth have made full the number of 144,000? Yes, that is the conclusion to which the evidence points. The general call for such ones has ceased to go out. But this side of the Great Tribulation, it is possible for some of these remaining ones on earth to prove unfaithful. God purposes to have, when his work with them is complete, the full number of 144,000 as faithful ones with permanent places in the kingdom. Accordingly, should one of these yet on earth prove unfaithful, his position would have to be filled by a replacement. By whom? It could be by a newly baptized person, or it could be by one of the great crowd who have been proving himself a keeper of integrity under test up to that point of time. We cannot limit Jehovah God or Jesus Christ in such selection, but Bible examples and principles would certainly favor the selecting of the time-tested person over the novice, especially in view of the shortness of the remaining time. So, when Gerrit Loesch was baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, the religion that he dedicated his life to had a very firm stance that after 1935, that calling stopped. And even if someone, maybe in a rare circumstance, had fallen away, then they could be replaced. But it was most likely by someone that was time tested, not some novice that didn't know what the heck was going on. This was back in 1970. So even going further into modern day Jehovah's Witness territory, when Gerrit Loesch was a member of the governing body, questions started to come up that there were a lot more people claiming to be of that select group of 144,000. And what did Gerrit Loesch and his fellow governing body members claim about so many people that were starting to say they were members of the 144,000? Well, let's take a look. From a 2011 Questions from Readers article, It says this. Memorial partakers. This is the number of baptized individuals who partake of the emblems at the memorial worldwide. Does this total represent the number of anointed ones on earth? Not necessarily. A number of factors, including past religious beliefs or even mental or emotional imbalance, might cause some to assume mistakenly that they have the heavenly calling. We thus have no way of knowing the exact number of anointed ones on earth, nor do we need to know. So Garrett Loesch and his fellow governing body members decided to handle the problem of more people making this heavenly claim to say, y'all are crazy. You guys are just suffering from some, I guess, emotional or mental imbalances. So guys, don't worry about it. So how funny is it that now, sitting across from him, who is a fellow governing body member, is someone that ostensibly he used to say was crazy. I think that this is such poetry for him to have to sit here and look this guy in the eye and just be like, I remember just a couple of years ago, we used to think people like you claiming to be of the 144,000 were insane. And now I'm having to do this interview. What has my life become? I'm just suspecting here, but if it was me, I wouldn't be super happy about having to be the one to conduct this interview. I'm like, can't you get someone else? It feels embarrassing. I could be your dad. Think about it. Garrett Loesch, when he made a claim in 1994 that he was a member of the anointed class, that would have been seen as something kind of edgy and controversial because he was baptized in 1961. So even back then, when they were claiming that, well, the calling stopped in 1935, it was like an edgy pick back then. And now 30 years later, they're having to do, the cycle continues, and it just looks even more embarrassing and ridiculous.
So their love for Jehovah helped my sister and me form a relationship with Jehovah as well. As I grew up and I learned the truth just made sense. But what really convinced me that it was the best way of living was the love amongst Jehovah's people. I remember during the summer vacations, brothers and sisters would come from around the country to preach in unassigned territory near us. And we didn't know these friends before they came. But when they arrived, we were instant family. And it was simply because we all served Jehovah. And that had a real impression on me.
My parents were raised around the truth. However, my mother was inactive, and as I was growing up, my father was also not a witness. Although we never really associated with the congregation, my mother did teach us basic Bible truths. I knew God's name was Jehovah. I knew that I should only pray to Him, and I also knew that the earth would be converted into a paradise. Also, when I would visit my paternal grandmother once or twice a year, who was a very faithful witness, I really felt drawn to Jehovah by her because of her words and her beautiful Christian qualities. I wanted to know who Jehovah really was. So when I was about 13 years old, I asked my mother if I could study the Bible. I reasoned, well, if this really is the truth, then I wanted to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And if it wasn't the truth, well, then I still wanted to be a good person. Interestingly, my mother had already been wanting to come back to Jehovah, so we progressed together. Soon after my study started, I realized that this was the truth that I was looking for. My mother was reactivated, and a month later, I was approved to be an unbaptized publisher. Now, I'm happy to say that my whole immediate family is in the truth, and they continue to be an excellent example of faith for me.
So the question was, what through your life has helped you develop a love for Jehovah so you want to serve him? What are the reasons that you love Jehovah so that way you want to serve him? The first guy, his answer is the classic Jehovah's Witness line.
You get the hugs. I love hugs.
We have love amongst ourselves, and oh, the brotherhood just makes me feel all squishy and ooey gooey inside. Cool. The next guy, this Jacob Kampf or whatever his name is, Rumpf. Sorry, I got to get their name down. I'll get there eventually. But his answer is, well, when I started studying the Bible at 13, it didn't matter if it was true or not true. I was going to follow it. If it was true, great. That's super duper. But I was going to do it no matter what because I thought that it was the best way to live my life. So it didn't really matter. That is the quintessential mindset of a Jehovah's Witness. They don't care about truth. They just want to have their friends, and they just want to fool themselves into thinking that they're living the best life ever. Imagine if you ask a scientist, hey, what convinced you that there's a liquid ocean under the ice shell that's around Europa, the moon of Jupiter? And they said, well, when I went to that party at NASA, everyone got along so good and the dancing was fun, so that made me convinced. And another guy said, yeah, I just really wanted to send a probe there, so it didn't really matter if I was convinced or not convinced. I just thought it would be really cool to be able to send a probe there. So yeah, that's why we're doing it. That's what convinced us. Like, they don't give reasons. They give feelings. That's not sufficient, especially coming from people that are now going to control the lives of millions of people all around the world.
I was assigned to the cleaning department when I came to Bethel at Wallkill, and it was a great crew. We enjoyed working with each other. About 2.5 years later, I was transferred to the office where I worked with staffing matters and medical matters, and I was even able to help missionaries with medical care that they needed. Later, Damaris and I got married and we were transferred to Brooklyn, where I also continued to work with medical matters. We served in Brooklyn until 2005 when we left Bethel to help take care of parents. We both pioneered, and I served on the Hospital Liaison Committee and on the Regional Building Committee. We came back to Bethel 8 years later for a 2-week assignment on the Warwick construction project. I guess it's lasted a little bit longer. We've been at Bethel ever since.
In the 1998 Regional Convention, I remember that there was a talk that highlighted several countries where there was a need for pioneers, and one of those mentioned was Ecuador. So I prayed about it, I looked at my circumstances, I did some investigation, and after that convention, I decided to write to the Ecuador branch for information. Well, after visiting to check it out, I was happy, with Jehovah's help, to be able to make the move. And the territory was so amazing at that time. Many right-hearted ones were searching for the truth. My dream to serve in a missionary field was becoming a reality. Then in 2011, we were surprised to be invited to the 132nd class of Gilead, which was also a great privilege for us.
Now, unfortunately, with this interview, we don't get any more actual information. As Garrett Lowe said at the beginning, we have so many questions to ask. And yet we don't get to hear of any of the ones that, we ex-Jehovah's Witnesses would be very curious to know about. Instead, we get this generic, where have you been and what are you doing? So Jacob Rumpf, he was in Ecuador, met his wife there, blah. Then he went to Gilead, and now he's a governing body member. I've already talked about Mr. Jedley, the time lapse of his Bethel service. It seems he did leave Bethel for a time, and he said it was because he wanted or needed to care for sick family. Most of his time at Bethel, though, was, according to him, was spent in medical information. I think, yeah. So medical information, whatever the heck that means, and then with the LDC and the RBC. So none of the actual interesting questions that we do have about these guys, but I thought I would give this a little bit of coverage anyway, and it was a great opportunity to laugh at the organization for just how ridiculous they are becoming. Bringing in new governing body members that are this young just looks embarrassing. They should change the policies first, not do it after. Just drop the 144,000, just drop 1914, drop all of that first, and then give people some time to marinate in those facts, and then you can bring on the next generation of people. But when you do it in this weird order, it just looks very silly. Anyway, that's about all I got for you guys today. So stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to show yourself the same kindness that you showed others. And you better have Have a good ass day.